Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayer podcast. We're coming to you live. We're mixing it up. We're doing a live episode. You can see us on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Yes, we are live right now, but this will be rebroadcasted, reposted onto all the usual channels shortly after, maybe in a couple days or so. Really quick, want to tell you guys about my domestic terrorist comedy tour. Want to mention a couple quick stand-up dates. This Saturday, I'm going to be at the Dojo of Comedy, Tiff's in Morris Plains, New Jersey, also known as Tiff's Ale House. I know, a lot of different names, but that's going to be this Friday at, I believe, 8 o'clock. Going to be a really fun time. Going to be some fun special guests. Come out. So if you're in New Jersey, this is the show to come to this Saturday at Tiff's, the Dojo of Comedy. And then next weekend, I'm actually going to be in Bethel, PA. The Comedians of the Compound are going to be performing at the Pat Garrett Amphitheater. So you'll see me, Aaron Berg, Gino Bisconti, Anthony Cumia, I think Don Jameson, all the compound comedians you know and love will be there. And then got a lot of dates planned. I'm going to be back on the Jersey Shore in July, and then going to be in New Orleans August 13th and 14th. Going to be in Vegas with Comedians of the Compound September 10th and 11th, and then back to Dallas, Texas, September 17th and 18th. So happy to be going back to Texas. Yes, I am going to try to work on Raleigh. My brother lives right there. I got to see my niece and nephew. So I am going to be working on that as well. Quick shout out from our sponsor, Cushy Dreams. Wow, look at this. I'm doing a live ad read. I've really made it, guys. I want to tell you guys about Cushy Dreams. They offer a full lineup of premium smokable CBD. They specialize in extraordinary CBD-rich hemp flower, also known as bud, in cans and pre-roll CBD joints, which I really love. They, as you can see on the website, they have these special 5-packs, which I love. It comes in this chic little package. You just open it up. You get a whiff of the good stuff. It smells, looks, feels just like regular weed, but it's not. You're not going to get high. There's under 0.3% THC in all these products. So you can enjoy all the health benefits of CBD without getting high. No munchies. I don't get the munchies when I smoke this stuff. I just have a couple pulls, and then within like 5 or so minutes, like my mind and body feel relaxed, and I'm not like out to lunch so high I can't function for the rest of the day. And if you're a person who is anxious at night, they've got different indica sativa blends. So if you want to be a little bit more up, maybe you do an energy or a hustle blend. Or if you want to relax before bed, do like relax or dream or peace. So whatever you want to do with your day, Cushy Dreams has you covered. They take the artisan approach. Every run is in a small batch. It's 100% hand trimmed, never machine trimmed. That's right. The robots haven't taken over yet. They do independent lab tests to ensure compliance and purity, all of which can be found on their website, cushydreams.com, Kushy dreams.com. Join the men and women who are sick of vapes and gummies and want to smoke their CBD. It's 100% legal in all 50 states. It'll ship directly to you. And best of all, it's grown here in the USA, baby. I mentioned the different indica sativa blends. Yeah. So go to cushydreams.com. Get your CBD on. Use promo code CMP at the checkout. Pew, 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 and get 20% off. And I believe free shipping. And chillax, guys. Also, if you're looking for a hot little sex toy, I forget to mention it from time to time, but adamandeve.com, if you use promo code CMP, you will also get 20% off. And they don't just have sex toys. They have lube, handcuffs, bath bombs with little unicorns inside. I've had them. I've used them. All right. I'm really excited to have this gal on the pod today. I love her. I adore her. I think she's doing really important work. You may know her as the button pusher, the producer from TimCast IRL. She's also somewhat of a handler of the guests. She kind of keeps it all together. Keeps everybody organized. So happy to have her on CMP today. Lydia Smith.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here with you. I was listening to you talking about your comedy tour, and I gotta say, it sounds like a ton of fun. I'm a little bit jealous.
I'm so excited. Yes, come. Like I don't know if You travel. Yeah. I mean, you got a busy job there.
We're trying to get this show on the road at some point in the future, which I'm really excited
Ooh.
about, which means we're going to get out and we would have the opportunity to like do things because every night I'm here, I'm doing stuff, I'm greeting the guests and everything. And it's fun and exciting, but can't really go anywhere. So you're making me a little bit envious.
Oh man. And I just really, this tour was mostly for me started out of spite. I was like, oh, we can't travel. Oh, there might be jab passports. Like, let me do as much as I can. And also I started it back when a lot of comedians were like scared to travel at all. So I'm like, oh, now I really want to travel. So
yes,
Spite Tour didn't have a good name to it. So after my little time in DC on January 6th, I figured I'd call it the Domestic Terrorist Tour.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Were you actually there?
I was actually there.
Wow.
And I was there to cover the event because I knew, and I was actually there in November and December as well. And I was starting to tell like, oh, the mainstream media is not covering any of these events fairly. They do a 6 a.m. flyover. They say there's nobody there. They know when people are going to arrive, but they decide what the mainstream media was doing was just being like, oh, it's a non-event. Trump has no fans. Nobody likes him. Meanwhile,
obviously, yeah,
it was exploding with people. And I figured that would happen. Oh, there's a hole in the back of my dress. Wow.
I know.
Luckily, it's in the back. Maybe I'll use that just for parties. So I went to cover, I think the December one, I was like, oh, okay, let me see if this happens again. And then January, it wasn't this big planned thing. It was a planned marching point, but there was no or at least in the circles I was hanging in, there was no like planned chatter of an insurrection or anything like that. From anybody who's been there, they'll tell you like, yeah, it was like pretty chill. I mean, it's
kind of like a walking tour is from what I was understanding.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that happened to you and you kind of had that revelation where you're like, wait, this isn't what they're saying it is. Because pretty much everybody I've talked to who's been convinced that Trump really kind of wasn't that bad got there by actually listening to one of his speeches. Yeah. I was like, yeah, if you look at the way they cover his speeches and then you actually listen to his speech, you're like, wait, this is way different than what they're saying. And whatever you think about Trump, the way they were covering him, totally unfair. Totally unfair.
Yeah. For me, the biggest revelation was what I was hearing from the media about Trump's fans, because I didn't vote for him in 2016. I voted for Jill Stein. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, sure.
Somebody.
And then she ended up, I think, like using her funds for like a hot tub or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
she like missed
wild.
She's a wild lady.
Girl.
But I got there only somewhat recently. Anyway, but for me, the biggest turnaround was what folks were saying about Trump's fans for years. They're rednecks, they're idiots, it's all white people, it's all like angry incels. And then I get there, each of these protests, the most diverse, the most age-wise, people with kids, families, every color, every religion. And I was like, oh, if they're wrong about Trump's fans, like everything started to crack and fall apart for me.
Interesting. That's great. I love to hear that because I always find that when you actually meet the people you've been told about, or like kind of like the people on the other side of Twitter, it's really eye-opening because you're like, this is not what I thought it was, or this isn't what I was told it was. And it just makes you start to wonder what else you're kind of being misled about, either intentionally or on accident, you know?
And I think like, am I having this revelation because I'm 37 and I'm like a grown ass woman now and there's some wisdom piling up? Or is it just the times? Is it just there's a big peeling back of the lies about the media? Possibly it's the times we're in, because I'm sure there's people in their 20s having these same revelations. Oh, we got a super chat from In Hot Water. This is a show on Compound Media. Lydia, please come on In Hot Water. Meet Frankie. They're talking about Frankie McDonald, who is how do I describe Frankie McDonald? He lives in Canada. He's like a special weatherman. He's very special.
Special, huh?
I don't know if he's autistic or something. He's very special. He's hilarious. But
gotcha.
Yeah,
I have to look him up.
He's a great guy. Oh my God, so many comments. Anyway, so I think what people I was so excited to get you on because the chats always are like flying so much on TimCast, but people love you. Like you really, I don't think you got into producing to culminate fans.
I did not. Nope. I did not want a camera at first. I was like, I don't feel like this is important. And Tim was like, well, you're a lady, and like it or not, ladies are a draw. And I was like, okay, well, I can try to, I want to help. I want to help the show grow and everything. And I like the idea of being the chick on the dude show, having them kind of run the conversation, being behind the scenes and kind of giving my 2 cents. Because I don't know that I could carry on a conversation for 2 hours every single night. I'm a little bit introverted, so that might actually, that's a lot. And Tim he has no upper limit on words he can speak. So it's like, he just goes and goes. I'm like, how do you do it, dude? Like, take it easy, man. But yeah, like I was kind of thrust into it. So I'm excited to be where I am. And I love everybody who's been like really nice to me. The internet has been really kind to me for the most part.
And I think it's because you have been your genuineness and your authenticity like really comes across. I think that's like you attract what you put out there. And it's like, yeah, you have genuine fans because you're not sitting there with your tits out every night. You're not like
I can't. I don't really have anything. Like, I'm just going to keep it low key. I'm just going to try to keep my focus on what I have to say and everything. But I noticed that if you're not genuine, it becomes very hard. I'm very forgetful. I have really short-term memory. I almost have short-term memory loss. And I'm like, I can't keep lies up. I can't keep a facade up. There's no way I can have any kind of persona other than just myself. It's simpler. It's easier. Also, I'm lazy. So there's like an element of I just want to chill. I just kind of want to be myself for the most part. That makes it a lot easier.
I see a lot of comments like sometimes like flying in the chat or even on Twitter, like, oh, let Lydia speak. We need to hear more from her. And it's interesting that you said that before, like you would prefer not to run the conversation. I'm the same way. Like a lot of times, like that's what I love about this podcast. Like I love listening and I love like I'll hear an interesting nugget and then I'll be like, let's explore that more. Like I just interviewed a friend, John Paul Rice, yesterday for my Rockfin channel. And then he called me 20 minutes later to apologize. He's like, I'm sorry. Do I just run the conversation? Do I just like that? And I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't know if this is a classically female trait, but I was like, I don't enjoy running a conversation. Like I like to, if it's a lot of people, I'll jump in with like a funny joke or a pun or something, but I like to listen and then like steer. And I wonder if you feel the same way. Like, I don't know if this is like a traditionally female trait, but like just
that's an interesting question. It might be a female thing. It might be, I don't know if you're a little bit more introverted like I am, because that can also be a factor too. But it's very much like maybe it's a people thing where you want to kind of facilitate this conversation. I feel sometimes like people come on TimCast IRL and then they don't talk as much as I would like them to. Like we have people who are super, super smart almost every single night. And I'm like, I just want them to just, spill the beans, talk about everything that they know. But there's a conversation. Tim has these things that he wants to talk about. We want to cover certain news stories. And it's like, I understand Tim needs to guide it. But before the show, when I'm talking with the guests, we will get down. We'll just chill. We're just chatting. And I will try to get them to talk as much as I can. Because I'm like, I want to know. And then, because oftentimes during the show, you'll be like, yeah, Lydia and I were talking about this before the show. Lydia and I were talking about this on the drive. And I'm like, yes, that's the way I want it to be. Because I don't want to, exhaust them before they get on screen. But I want to be like, okay, here's what we might talk about. Here's something interesting, and just kind of open it. Because if you do that, people have all sorts of interesting things to say. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Desiderata, and this is a little bit esoteric.
Ooh,
esoteric. No. It's this poem. It's not a poem. It's like a piece of prose, and it just talks about kind of the best ways to live your life.
Oh my God, literally, this is the super chat that came in. Lydia, what's your favorite Stoic quote? That's so funny.
Great timing. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a nerd in that regard. Let me finish this Desiderata thing because it's kind of important and it kind of ties into what my guests and how I function with them. The Desiderata says to treat everyone equally because it doesn't matter what level they're at, whether you think they're like an important person or not. They have something interesting and new and different to tell you. And that Jordan Peterson talks about that as well. As far as a favorite Stoic quote, I'd have to think. I love all of them, man. Every single one of them. I think that Marcus Aurelius is one of the smartest, possibly the most underrated guy. And I really liked Epictetus because he wrote like a dad talking to his kid. He's like, I really care about you. Here's what I think you should do. I was like, I appreciate feeling like the person that I'm reading cares about what I'm going through. I thought that was really neat. So, but yeah, that's what I try to do with my guests. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. I just want to listen to people talk.
I know that feeling, Lydia, because like a lot of times, and it's a guest I'm talking to before either like this podcast or Wet Spot on Compound Media, like they'll start to go into a funny story from the weekend, and I have to be like, no, save that. Like, don't blow this load just in the waiting room here. Like, save it for the podcast, which is an odd thing. You never want to shut off somebody's flow.
We have to do that too sometimes. We're like, hold it. Sometimes Tim with Ian will be like, nope. No talking. We're talking about the weather now because we can't like we don't want to have to like rehash it fully on the show again. But it's like you want to get people into the mode where they're thinking about it, like, but maybe they won't spit everything out beforehand. You know, it's kind of challenging. It's a little bit tricky sometimes, and you don't want to make them feel like they're repeating themselves. But
do you ever
kind of talking to them?
Do you ever feel like while the show is going on, you're like, oh, I want to help draw this person out. Maybe they are being a little timid, or maybe like Tim is on a roll. Do you ever think like, oh, should I, like, are there things that you do to try to like draw a guest out, or you just figure like, all right, you're on your own, buddy?
No, I sometimes will do that with my ladies. I did that with a couple of my ladies who seemed to be a little bit shy. And I was like, okay, so I know there's guys. I know that Tim is a strong personality. And I wonder if I jump in and ask them things from a female perspective, if they'll have an easier time like engaging with the guys. And then they can talk to Tim, but I can be like, all right, yeah, so I understand what you're saying. I see where you're coming from. And that way, usually what happens is they're kind of timid at first. Then once we kind of get rolling, everything's a little bit easier for them. That's what I try to do. And unless I have a guy who's I haven't had many guys who are super shy. A few of them have been kind of indecisive at first, but you usually just kind of get them rolling, and Tim's pretty good about handing off to them if he feels that they need to jump in. So
you know what it is? It's like you always have such good guests on the show. I'm not just saying that because I did it once. But like
I love my guests.
It seems like the times we're in right now, like really challenge and call up people to be more outspoken and like really fight, whether like we're fighting to get our freedoms back or fighting just to like against call for a more outspoken person. And maybe that is why most of your guests are not shy. They're just like, no, it's like if you've gotten to this point where they have like your and Tim's attention and you have them on the show, it's like, yeah, they're here. They have a message. They have passion. They have shit they want to do.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And I think that is one of the silver linings about being in this hard, weird, scary time, because you mentioned age earlier, and I actually had been really curious about that. I've been asking every older person I have. I know that I tend to offend them a little bit because I'm like, I really want to meet these people who are older than I am. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm older than you. I'm like, yeah, you are. I'm not even 30 yet. And you're the age of my parents or whatever. And I'm like, I really want to know, have you seen anything wild and crazy in the, hold on, did I lose you? Where'd you go? You disappeared.
I'm still here.
Are you there? Okay, that was weird. You just vanished. I was like, oh no, I don't know. Should I pause? I ask these older people, I'm like, you okay?
Yeah. My internet cord just sucks.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I ask these older people, I'm like, have you ever seen anything like this before? Because some of these people who lived through the 60s and some of the wild stuff that went on, I think in the 90s and all this stuff that happened pretty much for the most part before I was born. And they'll tell me that they really haven't seen it this bad. And I'm like, okay, I'm not just being dramatic. I feel better about this now because I want to make sure that I'm not overreacting, that this isn't just like adulting being hard. I don't know if you hear that expression. It's like, what do you think of that expression?
Adulting, well, it sounds corny. It sounds cheesy because I sometimes have like no patience for because it's like, look, I didn't have nobody has the perfect parents. And it's like, yes, I could complain about how my parents didn't teach me about finances, didn't like deeply pay attention to my strengths and then steer me towards like trying to make a living from the things I'm actually strong at. Like my mother was like, Chrissie, if you go to college and you study hard, maybe one day you could work at a hotel in New York City. Like it was what she wanted, what she thought would be cool for herself. Yeah. And like my dad was a landscaper growing up. So it's like my parents weren't really equipped. They weren't artistic people. So they weren't able to see that strength in me and then being like, oh, here's all the things you could probably do to make money. They were like, yeah, that's a hobby. You should probably put that low on your priority list. And then, I don't know, just be somebody's assistant till you die.
Wow, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit like what my mom wanted to try to do with me. She told me what she thought that I should do. And I was like, but I don't really want to do that. When I was 11, I was like, I would like to work in journalism. And I actually wrote like letters to the editor for a newspaper. I think that I wrote to the American Enterprise magazine, and I got a couple of my little weird, silly, 11-year-old letters to the editor published because I'd been reading the news, and I was like, well, this kind of bothers me, and I think this would fix it. So I'll talk to you guys about this. It actually worked. I was really surprised. But I realized even at that age, I was like, I am too conservative. I'm way too conservative to be in this field. So I need to figure out what else I could do. And that was kind of depressing to me. So when I finally had the chance to jump into this field, I jumped on it. And I'd never worked like behind the scenes. I'd never done production or sound or anything like that ever before. But I was like, you know what, Tim, if you're going to teach me this stuff, I will 100% learn everything you have to show me, because this is absolutely where I want to be.
That's really interesting that you at such a young age were not like, I don't know, swept into liberalism that I feel like is more common. I don't know if that's more like you attribute that to your parents, but that you kind of knew your values right away is like speaks to, I think you're an old soul and you're just like a solid person. So do you hate hearing that?
No, I have heard it a few times, and I think it's definitely true, just because I actually found that when I worked with old people at the hospital and in this rehab center that I worked with, I freaking loved them. They were the best. They were like down to earth. They didn't complain. They took care of business. They knew what they were doing. And at the point that I was working with them, they also didn't really care what people thought about them as much anymore. And it was really freeing to just see them be their own person. I thought that was great. But I do credit not slipping into liberalism to my parents, 100%, because they were conservative, but they weren't overly so. I watched overly conservative parents turn their kids into social justice warriors. Many of the kids that I was raised with, because we were homeschooled, there was this intense backlash. As soon as they left home, they were like, I hate everything that my parents taught me. I'm going to dye my hair blue. I'm going to, absolutely 100% rebel. And that I did end up functionally running away from home because my parents were going to make me go to like this really conservative college. And I was like, I went for a semester, Bob Jones University. No one's ever heard of it. It's in South Carolina. They're not accredited, nothing like that. I wouldn't have been able to get like a functional job outside of the Christian bubble. And I was like, I'll go for a semester because this is what you want me to do. I don't want to come back. My mom told me that this is something I had to go back for another semester, and I didn't go home. I took a flight back to where I was from, and I ended up living with my then boyfriend's family because they understood my situation. Yeah. And I was like, well, this is a really weird situation I'm in. I'm 18. I escaped this kind of constrictive home where my parents had been telling me that my lot in life was to be just a wife and a mother, and there wasn't really anything more I should do. And I was like, I hate all of this so much. I'm out. I didn't speak to my parents for like 3 years. I got out. I got my own apartment. I got my own certification I was a nurse aide, which I actually really liked doing because, as they know, women like people and men like things, which is why women tend to go into nursing and men tend to go into exactly, nursing and teaching. And everyone complains about how it's not paid as well, but that's also because we've doubled the workforce. But that's totally an aside.
It's our own fault, damn it.
I know, it really is. Well, and now we're kind of stuck because we tend to kind of need those two incomes to keep our families afloat, especially if you have student loan debt. My mom asked me one time, she was like, I really don't understand why girls your age don't want to stay home. And it was like this really compassionate comment. And I was like, Mom, we do. We really do. I think that many, many girls would like to be wives and moms and kind of stay at home, or at least have that option, but we don't have that choice.
It's like the ultimate luxury. I have this joke like, oh, I know this girl and she's got 4 kids and she stays at home and her husband pays for everything. She's what do you call it? And then I let the audience say like gold digger, whore. And then as they're yelling things out, she's what do you call it? And I'm like, a genius. She's a genius. She's figured it out. That's the yeah, it would be nice.
I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was Jack Basobic. He said this to me. He was like, what if it was like OnlyFans, but you only had one customer for the rest of your life, and you would like do certain things for each other, like he would keep the house from falling apart, and you would, I don't know, maybe cook food and wash some of the clothes sometimes. I was like, that sounds great to me. As far as I'm convinced, that's kind of the way it should be. It would take so much pressure, I think, off both parties to kind of be a little more chill about all this. But I feel like we've gotten way too far from that. I don't know.
I love the idea of Jack Posobiec like pitching monogamy and marriage and starting a family, but like in a cool way. Like he goes to speak at high schools, or he starts doing TikToks. Like, get this, it's OnlyFans. You can be as slutty as you want, take as many butthole pictures, but you only have to send them to one guy.
It sounds like a great deal. See, as far as I'm concerned, that's like the perfect strategy. They're not going to get leaked. They're not going to get used as blackmail. You know exactly where they're going to. You know the response of the person on the other end. There's nothing weird and cringy like you get with dating anymore. But Jack is happily married, and I don't know. I don't know if he puts pictures of his kids on social media. I think he does on his Instagram.
He did recently. Yeah, he has 2 like beautiful little kids.
They're so cute, and his wife is just lovely. And he really makes the case for just having kind of that normal human life that our parents had, that we were so eager to run away from. Were you at all eager to get away from that, or do you think that they were onto something there?
I was personally eager to get away from it, and I only very recently have sort of like come around on the idea, because your parents are your template. Like your mother is your template of how to be a woman. So it's like I grew up watching her like not standing up for herself, like not like my dad was like hitting her, but they were yelling a lot, and like they were not like speaking nicely to each other. And so my first like man-woman relationship example, I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. They take each other for granted. They don't bring each other up in the man. You know what I mean? Like say the kind of, like my mom was not saying the kind of things that would like build up a man. Do you know what I mean? We all know what they are. Like,
oh yeah, I know.
And like my dad was not saying any of the things that you say to try to like build up a woman. Like, nah, I don't think I ever heard him like compliment her. They just fought about money, and my dad was very critical of her, like, oh, these kids, they're not cleaning up their room, that's your domain, like I'm outside the house, you're inside the house. Like he was very old school that way. Like
that's too old school. And you know what, I have a really hot take that some people might actually take issue with, but I actually think there is such a thing as toxic masculinity. I also think that there's such a thing as toxic femininity. Have you thought at all about toxic femininity? Is this anything that you've seen?
Yes, of course there's toxic femininity. I was that. I was like,
really?
Oh yeah. And like when I embarked on my women's studies minor in college, and it was in a Students for Social Justice Club, very much like I embraced it fully. I was reading like what was it, like Ms. Magazine or whatever, like the cool feminist magazines were like at my college bookstore. I just felt like I was discovering a whole new world. I felt smarter for it. Like, yeah, I'm in college, so I'm already smarter than my mom because she went to secretarial school. And I'm in like, liberal. You just think you're hot shit and smarter than everybody that's come before you. And feminism and social justice feel like this exclusive little club that only like the smartest, best people are in. And of course you want to be that. And I think that the nugget of that has sort of like grown, and like, radioactive syrup has been poured on it. And that's basically like New York City elites. It's the same thing, but they have their grown up, like smarty pants CNN and the New York Times, even though it's like a lot of bullshit. It's the same nugget of like elitism, and it's like, oh, just because I'm around culture and the arts like doesn't mean you're better or smarter than say people who live in Ohio who maybe didn't go to college, you know.
Do you think that has to do a little bit with I don't know, you're a little bit older than me, so you may not have caught this as much when you were growing up, but when I was younger, my parents never subscribed to this, but a lot of what was going around was this whole concept of self-esteem and constantly feeling good about yourself and you're great no matter what you do. Did you catch any of that when you were growing up?
That came after, for sure. Like, my parents were not trying to fill me with self-esteem, for sure.
Yeah. And
it was more like, I think about this because I have like, you know, I was in therapy for a couple years. Like I thought I just had dad issues, and it turns out I had like mom and dad issues. But like the point was that like early on, like I got my value from my accomplishments. I wasn't like just loved just for I didn't feel like loved just for being me, because I didn't feel like I was listened to or heard. That's why I like was drawn to comedy, because I'm like, oh, you can get up on stage and be honest, and there's no backlash. But yeah, I was a diver growing up. I started when I was like 10 or 11, went all the way through college, and was like pretty good. So I would like work really hard at that, and like my accomplishments would fuel my self-esteem, which is great. Like it kept me out of like trouble. It kept me out of like, you know, kind of like bad stages during like middle school and high school. Like I wasn't like doing drugs or drinking very much. But then like the second you get second place in a meet, you're like, oh, I'm trash. So yeah,
that really stinks. That's kind of interesting. So you had kind of the backwards form of what I feel like a lot of these kids are getting. I was thinking maybe that the reason we have so many kind of aimless people wandering around all over the place was because we've just been told that we're great the way we are. And that's actually kind of depressing, because when you look at yourself, you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is not great. I don't like where I am. Is this really it? This is not cool. I don't like it. How can I fix it? And they're just like, yeah, no, you're great the way you are. And I'm like, I don't want to be great the way I am. I want to like do something different, do something that makes me feel better, like I'm actually moving toward this goal. And I feel like I see that a lot. I wonder if that's to blame for a lot of this kind of depression and uncertainty in kids who are, you know, between your age and my age, because they're totally lost. They're really drifting. And it's just like, they don't seem to care about anything. And it kind of makes me sad.
It is sad. And I think I agree with a lot of what like Jordan Peterson says on this, where like if you remove a lot of difficulty and challenges like in a person's life, like they're just not going to be happy because they don't have a sense of accomplishment. And I think because I worked so hard and I faced so much rejection just like in years of doing comedy, like I used to appreciate every positive step, because you like just have to, you've worked for everything you've gotten. And also like it's helped not having rich parents too, because I've noticed the comics that come from very rich parents, like they're not really happy, because I think they're like deep down, like if your parents are rich and you're doing comedy, you're probably not going to live up, you know what I mean? You're probably not going to make as much as they do unless you get really lucky and hit like a certain level of fame.
Point. Yeah, that's interesting, because you know, I've actually noticed that as well. Not so much, obviously not in comedy for me, but I've noticed that with people who are born into money, it's almost like they peaked really early and now they're just kind of discontent. Like that sucks. I actually wouldn't wish that on my kids. Like I'd hope to get to the point where I could afford to pay the bills and could afford to keep them out of public schools. Those are basically my goals in life, is to have the kids, make sure they're raised well, and make sure that they never have to go to public school. That's all I want. I don't want them to have a yacht. I don't want them to live in a $60 million mansion. I just want them to be sane, normal, stable people who are looking to make the world a better place. And the kind of excess that comes with money, I've never seen people so discontent and like kind of angry with life as people who are born wealthy. I'm like, wow, I'm actually really glad that didn't happen to me.
Yeah. Like if you have all your best vacations as a child, everything's going to be a disappointment. Like now looking back, I'm like, because I'll go on trips with like my boyfriend and his 10-year-old son. And I'm like, wow, you got a bed. Like when I was your age, I was sleeping on the floor. I was sleeping on a cot. We were in Lake George. It was damp. Like the carpet was just always damp. Like, and I know there's something to be said for like extremely low standards, because then you're just like, wow.
Yeah, I found that ever since I started working for Tim, because I'm earning more than I ever did before. I'm like, everything is nice now, and I appreciate all of it. I am so grateful. I'm grateful for my place. I'm grateful to be where I am. I'm grateful for Tim's friendship and the fact that he's taught me this stuff. Every part of my life, I'm just like immensely just full of gratitude, because I can, at any moment it could just go away. And that's something worth keeping in mind, knowing that you don't really have not like this backup plan, because it's always good to plan for whatever might happen, but knowing that you can't necessarily turn maybe to your parents, I think is an incredibly good thing. I think that especially millennials need to be pushed out. We need to be made to do this stuff. We need to be forced to take responsibility. And I feel like a lot of us weren't.
Oh yeah. I was at a point, well, I'm not an example to follow, but like I was so close to getting into like Craigslist sex work because I didn't want to ask my dad for money. Like when it was like a long time ago, but I was a sneeze away.
Yeah, I understand not wanting to ask for money and being like, what am I going to do if I can't find a way to pay the bills this month? What am I supposed to do? I need to figure something out. I took a really unglamorous way, like working in hospitals. People used to literally wrinkle their nose at me when I told them what I did for a living. And I'm like, dude, someone has to do it. And at that time I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to have kids. So the way I see it, I'm paying this forward so that God forbid I ever need somebody to help me go to the bathroom, there will be someone there to help me, because, it might not be my kids. And it's like, I don't know. It's like you do things that are hard because you don't have that safety net of your parents and you don't have all this money behind you. And I am really glad that you didn't have to get into like that backdoor Craigslist
stuff.
Yeah,
me too. I cried in the shower. I was like, this is an indication that I'm not cut out for this life.
You're like, this isn't going well. I need a different plan. And
I want to save my butthole for someone special.
I know.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You don't want to be that kind of person. I mean, that changes you. It changes your view of yourself. And it's like, you kind of want to stay away from all that stuff.
I did feel like my soul was like reaching out and being like, no,
don't do this.
Truly don't do this. Like you'll be a different person after.
Yeah, it's true. You have to maintain. I don't think that modern people understand the importance of relationships like that, especially for women. We think that we can just hoe around like dudes do, and we fucking can't. We are not the same. I don't know what it is about women, but we need it to be like stable. And I think it's biological. I think it's because when your body knows that you're going to have to invest like at least 9 months into this undertaking, you're like, I'm going to be a little careful about this, and it's like, I'm going to be a little thoughtful, and I'm not going to make like these super crazy ideas that, you're not going to make these super crazy choices like guys do, because they can just like, hand it out like whatever, it's going out of style. But
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep it on the down low for sure.
When I was in my like heavy hoe stage, like it was after a very toxic breakup, I think I banged like 20 people in a month or something.
Man.
But I know this because I kept very close, like a list. Like for me, it was very like conquery, and it was the biggest distraction. I didn't like make any headway career wise, like. And I would go for just bad dudes that I knew I wouldn't get attached to. It was like I was setting myself up for like really unhealthy patterns, I guess. Like,
it does suck.
I just was like, of course. And then you would get attached, and then they'd be like, oh, but it was bad. I had basically formed this like tough exoskeleton. Anyway.
Well, then you have to be like, this is nothing. I'm keeping this at arm's length. And I wonder if this is kind of how people get into have you ever watched My 600-Pound Life?
Yes.
Have you noticed that those people don't just, I know it's a really interesting show, but I noticed that these people aren't just eating because they like food. They're not just eating because food is great and addictive or whatever. They're eating because something else is going on. And in most cases, it's because they have been abused to some extent. Or they're in a relationship with somebody who is still abusing them and or enabling them. whether it's
Yeah.
parents or significant others. And it's like, yeah, when you're having a tough go in life, you're like, I'm going to find something to fill this hole in my heart one way or the other. And I actually wanted to ask you, I've kind of been floating this idea around to all of my guests, and I want to kind of develop this idea, but I think I have been pitching for a long time that there's going to be this kind of correction. I've been calling it a correction. I think that culture is going to kind of bounce back to the way it was before. And you and I have already talked a little bit about this, like women wanting to stay at home and wanting to be moms and wives and do some of those traditional things. And kind of like be able to have that single income household. I think, have you noticed this, that religion is starting to come back a little bit in weird ways in places you wouldn't expect?
I think so. I have noticed it. Like, well, I know it's like I'm becoming more interested in it. Like over the last, like, I think year, I'm just like, I think I disregarded, I was raised Methodist and I just was like, oh, well, church is something that my parents,
right.
My mother made me do because her mother, like my grandmother, very, very religious, owned like 100 Bibles. And because she just was like obsessed with them, I never really looked through one. Every time I'd be there, she'd try to stick a New Testament in my purse. I'd be like, get that out of here. I don't know what it is. But now I'm like, I think it's through talking to more of my Christian friends, like Elijah Schaefer.
Yeah.
And it's like everything that you're looking for that I had been looking for. And I've read so many like new agey, self-helpy. I love that. I love like motivational talk. And
right.
It's like, you get it from that stuff, but you also get it from like great thinkers, like of course Jordan Peterson and like James and everybody you've had on your show basically could have like a book of quotes.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to have like, okay, your cool contemporary peers, like your friends saying, hey, you can find what you're looking for in Christianity. Like, and then like he gave me this book and it's like, oh, every page I didn't mean to bust this out, but it's like, oh, like if my grandmother had given me a book called Jesus Calling, I'd be like, ew, get it away from me. But like my friend Elijah gave it to me and like you open up to the day and it's like, and you're like, oh, wow. Like, it's motivational. And I'm like, oh, I guess it's cool now. So
yeah, it's like that I like because it's like short. It's like really to the point. I like that it's applicable. Somebody gave me one of those as well once, and I was suitably impressed. I was like, this is kind of neat. It's kind of a really good idea because it's just something you can do to center yourself. People talk about meditating or whatever every day, and it's just like you sit down with this little book and you read it. It gives you like 5 minutes with yourself and gives you a second to think about your life and get yourself together. I think that's great. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe we really just kind of need the structure that religion offers. I was starting to think about Judeo-Christian principles because I look at the way the West works, or has worked, I should say. It's not working so well now. I look at the way it works, and I'm like, there has to be something true here if it's built on these principles that made it work so well. Like these ideas that made families strong, there's something special there. And kind of listening to Jordan Peterson, he did like a Bible lecture, and I was like, I'm not going to like that. Because, I know the Bible. I was raised in that, and my family was very, very, adamant about going to church every single Sunday. We did not miss a week. And then I was like, wow, Jordan Peterson is like taking it in a really interesting direction that I never thought about before. I was like, that's really good because he's talking about these ideas in kind of the same way I look at the strength that those principles give the West. And he's like, these are ideas that tie to like myths and these stories that run through human history. So there are like deep truths here that are in the Bible. And I still haven't fully concluded if the Bible is the source of the truth or if the Bible is just an expression of that truth. But that was really fascinating to me. And I was like, you know what? It is interesting that people our age are kind of like, yeah, there's something there. Not crazy,
Yeah,
it's not uncool.
That's what it is. It's all about like the delivery. It's all about like the messenger, right? And it's like, if this is coming from these age old ideas, but it's coming from like a source you trust and you don't feel like this person is like bought, paid for, they don't have an ulterior motive. It's like the best. It's like, yeah, people were trying to help each other live our best lives and reach our potential. And I was seeing on your Twitter, this is interesting. It's like this new, everything that's old is like new again, like this pro-family trend that I heavily attribute. I know Jack Posobiec is not the only one doing it, but he's always like, be a rebel, start a family. And I'm like,
yes,
it kind of sounds not like I'm a fangirl of his, like, but it does. He makes it sound cool, and I'm wondering, will other conservative values follow in this time?
I think so. I actually was really happy when Trump was president because I was watching him do these things that I had always thought would work really well. And I was like, holy shit, they're working. I was right about all this stuff. Would you look at that? And I was like, this is really neat. And I felt not vindicated, but I felt like really reassured to see all this stuff kind of working out. Oh, yeah. Are you looking for the kids one? That one.
Yeah, this is it.
This is my white pill day, baby.
Video of your beginning of your relationship versus now.
Beginning of your relationship versus now.
You know, that's just your typical couple.
That's right. They're having fun.
Look at this. They're making a family look cool.
Oh, they're having fun.
The baby is so cute.
Oh my gosh, adorable couple. I was like, that is just so freaking cute. At first I was like, it's a couple, no big deal. But I do think that the tide is turning because I found that on a meme page and I was like, this is becoming popular. And I do view, so this is a message that I sent to one of my friends and I was like, if you want to gauge how the culture is feeling, look at memes, right? Because memes, the idea of like memetics are these like really compact little ideas. That
Wait, is that what meme is short for?
Yeah, memetics. Yes.
I had no idea.
Who came up with that? I think it was Richard Dawkins. And he had like a different use for it, but it's a similar idea where a meme is just like this really short, concise idea that people identify with like really strongly, like Pepe or whatever, copium or whatever. And it's like, I understand. That makes sense to me. And it's something usually you can identify immediately. And it's like, oh, yeah, I get that. I relate to that. And this conveys an idea that there's a shared, people use the term shared consciousness. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't get that. But I do think that memes kind of tap into that concept of having this shared understanding of the world. And I think that our memes talking about like strong families, I remember a time, and this actually coincided to the time when I didn't really want kids myself. I remember a time when all of the memes were people just being like, yeah, I don't want kids. It's so boring. And, you know, our parents had kids and look how they turned out. And it's like, that's different now. Like I see a lot of videos of parents playing with their kids, of their kids doing cute shit. It's usually dads. It's usually dads. Yeah. And I'm like, being a dad looks like a ton of fun. Let's be real.
It does. Like, it does. No stretch marks unless you choose them.
Right.
You know, from beer or eating whatever you want.
Like, that looks like being the good cop 99% of the time until, you know, it's time to, you know, set the hammer down or whatever, force what mom says. Mom gets to worry about little boy bashing his head open. Dad gets to be the one who's launching him off, you know, the edge of the sofa or whatever. I saw this video and it's like this super dramatic video game music, and it's these two kids running across the living room, and it sets them into slow motion. You start seeing these Nerf darts coming after them, and I was like, Mom is not behind that Nerf gun. That's a lot of fun. That's the shit that you remember for the rest of your life. Those are the memories you make with mom and dad. And I'm actually really excited to see millennials starting to be like, that looks like fun. I want to have a family. And I don't know if they're going to raise their kids right. I've seen millennials do what I think is kind of a terrible job with their kids. They'll like throw them an iPad or whatever. And that I don't like. I have friends who do that. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, the results on that are kind of in now. And it's like we've seen enough examples of like kids who are wild and like just it's okay once in a while. I get it. But like you're training their brain at such a young age. Yeah. Which is in some ways it's great. It's like, okay, it's motor functioning, but you just gotta, attention is like the most valuable currency you can give your kids.
You can't replace that.
It almost feels like our culture is like coming out of adolescence. It seems like a larger, like we were rebelling, like liberalism was cool. It was like, the Obama years. I don't know. And it feels like it's perfectly coincided with my also like high school, college, now like grown ass adult time. And except our dad, like if our regular dads didn't do a good enough job, it seems like Posobiec and Peterson and like all of these guys. I hate to say guys, but it's a lot of these guys are like, to me, like
They're
my
the strong
internet
voices,
my internet daddies, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're good role models more than anything. And there are a few ladies who are good role models, but they're kind of, I understand that women they have domestic duties. Let's be real. I'm not super feminist. I'm also not super trad. I get people who tell me that, I'm an empty egg carton or whatever. I'm like, just go fuck yourself. Seriously.
You've got eggs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't care, dude. And I especially don't care about the opinion of someone who's going to tell me something like that. But it's like, women are busy. Like, they're doing stuff. Like, they're taking care of the kids. They're organizing everything. They like being at home or whatever. Or they're working and being at home. We're
making Halloween costumes. We're French braiding. Yeah,
exactly. There's fun stuff that women would rather do than, be extremely online and fighting culture wars, whatever. Although I have been seeing these moms. There was that New York mom who laid into the school board.
Tatiana, yes! I'm dying to have her on. She's a bad bitch. I know.
Obsessed. She's so cool. There are other parents too, though, who are a little bit closer to me. So Tatiana is probably closer to you. There are parents in Loudoun County who are throwing the similar kind of fit.
I love that.
I do too. And it's starting to happen everywhere. I saw a mom who was actually from China. And she's like, this is terrifying to me because I saw this happen. Holy shit, dude. Everyone needs to stop what they're doing and listen to that lady. Because I think people thought it was hyperbole before, and it's not anymore. There was a Columbia professor, an African-American Columbia professor, who came out and he was like, pull your kids out of these schools. This is bad. This is really bad. I was like, okay, wow. Did you hear about that professor at Yale? Who's like, You know what I want to do to white people? She's a psychotherapist.
Of course.
She works. Yeah, I know. I don't know what it is about the crazy in the crazy field, but it's like she wanted to commit extreme acts of violence against basically any white people that she ran into. And she does counseling and therapy for people. And I was like, I'm calling for a complete pause on college professors until we can figure out what the fuck's going on, because this is not cool. Not at all. Yeah. Like, this is pre-genocide talk, straight up. And I don't care for the whole white replacement thing or whatever. This is nonsense. Like, it needs to stop now, especially in the schools.
I ignored a couple of the super chats. We'll go through them really quick and let me know if this is not something that's interesting to talk about.
No, you're good.
From John Keeler, ask Lydia why Tim won't host Nick Fuentes.
Well, we'll pretty much host anybody who wants to come on. Let me think. We have a full slate right now. And I would like to bring someone on with Nick who could kind of argue with him, basically. Because I like the idea of giving platform to people, but I don't like the idea of allowing people to just run roughshod and go unchecked. I don't know if you're familiar with Nick, but he holds some pretty controversial views.
I'm somewhat. I have definitely heard of him, and he is another person that people have told me to get on the show, and I'm like,
you should listen to what he has to say. Here's what I recommend everybody do. You and me and anybody who works in this field. I recommend going and listening to what he has to say and seeing if that's something that you want to engage with. Because as a person with a platform, the person with the platform has a right to decide who they want to or don't want to talk to. And there have been people who have been like, oh, we're maybe not going to do you, or maybe not right now or whatever. And it's like just a matter of timing sometimes. Other times it's like, I'm just not interested in your views. I mean, you're welcome to present.
And that views. Is different than censorship. It's not like you are condemning them or saying they shouldn't talk to anybody. And it's like, and I'm sure I mean, you guys have, TimCast is obviously it's a huge show, but I start to go through this okay, just because someone is a big name and a hot topic and popular, does that mean I have to try to get them on?
It does not.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And I think that people, once they get to a certain level and have a little bit of name recognition, I think that they get a little bit entitled. And there's very little that I like less than entitlement. Just because I myself am not entitled, like I was saying, I never had money. I have worked hard for everything that I have. And if you want to go on someone's show, you need to be polite. The people who support you need to be kind, polite, and compassionate. And you need to make the case that they should have your person on with all of your actions. You shouldn't be a jerk. You shouldn't consistently pester people. You need to be kind of understanding. You need to be like, maybe this is because I was raised in a Christian household and my parents were always like, you need to be a good witness. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I understand now.
Is that why people say, can I get a witness? It's a Christian
Yeah, exactly.
thing?
Yes,
Okay.
It is. But it's like, if you, as a follower of someone, my parents would say as a follower of Jesus, you need to be a good and kind person because you're trying to point people in that direction. And I really feel like the audience, if you have like a really strong character in your audience, you want the character in your audience to reflect you, and you want that to be positive so that you can have that platform. You get that platform not by being a jerk, but by being someone that people want to engage with. That's pretty much it, honestly.
It's got to be tough, the position you're in, because you're not like a mysterious, faceless booker. Like, you're out there. You're very much a part of the show. Like, people can follow you and reach out to you, and it's not an easy job. I
don't mind it. I really do like engaging with people, but I actually made this little rule of thumb, and I think that I tweeted about this a while ago. I'm a little bit obstinate. I think I tweeted that each time someone demands that I bring a certain person on my show, it's going to be another day before I even consider asking them on. And I got to like 6 months and I was like, you know what? It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. You guys won't let up. You will not cool off. You won't even give me time to like regroup and even see how I could possibly do it. So what's the point? You're never going to stop. So
you won't be bullied. Yeah.
I mean, Tim won't either. Like, Tim and I are 100%. When they took Alex Jones off, they took his episode down. We're like, fuck you guys. We're going to have him back. Yeah. And we did. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. 100%. We need to have him back. And like, we're not going to be walked over by anybody from above or from below, you know?
I love that. I meant to ask this before, but we were like on such a roll. And I think you told me this a little bit back when I was there in March, but like, how did Tim find you?
So he found me because I left a comment on one of his Instagram pictures. And I was like, are you going to bring your van through Colorado? You know, I was in Colorado at the time. I was in school and I had 3 different jobs and I had just had shoulder surgery. I was like, oh, it'd be really fun to like meet you because, you know, I watch your videos or whatever. Your van looks really cool. And he was like, oh, maybe my dad is out there. I was like, oh, that's super awesome. You know, that'd be really cool. He hit me up because he was looking for somebody to drive his van because it's always business with Tim. And I was like, oh man, you know, I just had this surgery on my right shoulder, but I could send you articles. I actually sent him an article about Jordan Peterson. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to use this in one of my 6 p.m. segments or whatever.
Wow.
I was like, awesome. I'm going to send you the news that I read every day because I love that stuff. That was why I watched him. Because as I said, when I was 11, I was like, I want to go into journalism. I find news really fascinating. So I did. And I kept like this Google document where throughout the day, as I was reading these articles, I would just throw links in there for him. And he ended up using tons and tons of my articles for his, you know, he had a hard time finding, he used to do 3 segments back to back at about 6 p.m. every night. And he wanted them to be more cultural. So he was like, I'm having a hard time finding articles for these videos. Is that something that you want to do? Just save me like 20 minutes a day. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. It was so fun. It was something that I did anyway. And then he was like, hey, you know what? I'm starting this podcast. Do you want to move to the East Coast and be a producer? I was like, heck yes. I was like, yes, I'd love to be involved in the media in like this new budding world. And he's like, I'll teach you everything. Don't even worry about it. And I was like, good, because I have absolutely no experience in this field. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it was really, really fun adventure.
To me, that seems like such a meant to be situation just because of how you met. Like, imagine having an Instagram message exchange where like not one dick pic is shared, not one creepy thing is said. It's like here you have a job opportunity for something you've always kind of wanted to do and are naturally very good at. And it just
I felt like that was so fortuitous or destiny or God or whatever you want to say, because he hit me up and I was like, is this really Tim Pool? Because he has like almost 1 million, you know, he had at the time almost 1 million YouTube subscribers and everything. And I was like, that's crazy. And he's like, no, it's really me. And I was like, wow, that's wild. Yeah, I'll send you articles. That sounds like fun. So I'm just trying to help. So
how much time did you spend from when you first connected and you were like sending him things to when he offered you a job?
We had been friends for a year. before he was like, hey, I'm starting this new thing. I'm building my studio in Jersey or whatever. And he would like send me videos of what was going on. I was like, that's amazing. That looks like so much fun. And he's like, yeah, you want to produce this? And I was like, yeah, I do. I will be right out. I got nothing else going on right now. So.
And where did you move from?
Colorado.
Okay, Colorado. Oh, Colorado's nice.
It is nice. It's high altitude and it's kind of dry. I look a little greasy in this because it's like everything's so much more moist in Maryland.
It's moist. It's very moist here. But you can breathe easily. It's not all that high altitude air. You're like,
it's not high altitude.
You're getting all this oxygen.
Everything's green. I love it. It's awesome. But yeah, that's how I met Tim. And ever since then, we've been like friends. We've been like on the same, we have very like almost similar personalities. His is much stronger than mine is, but we agree on music. We agree on all these different things. It's just like, we just kind of vibe and it's kind of neat, low key, fun.
And at what point did you start taking over like the booking role? Or was that always
that was part of it. Yeah. He's like, so one of the things you'll do is bring in guests and we'll book them for everything and we'll give them places to stay and stuff. And I was like, okay, but they're going to say no to me. And he's like, well, I was like, yeah, nobody knows me. And I was like, okay, I might need your help with some of this at first. And even still, I'm like, this person's never going to respond to me, but I bet they'll respond to you. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like we've hit up literally everyone on like the conservative Twitter side. And I'm always taking suggestions. Just because we have people every single night. But it seems like our timing is always good. It seems like we can bring somebody in at just the perfect time. Like yesterday, talking about China, Jack Basovic speaks Mandarin. He's lived there for a couple of years. It was just perfect timing. So, it's been really, really fun adventure.
Okay. Super chat from Middle Age Crazy. Ooh. Listening to you two, I hope that this country actually has good days ahead. Thanks. Oh, thanks, middle-aged man. Are you a boomer?
I am happy to hear that. I don't care what age you are. Everybody needs to feel that way because we need to change the cultural dialogue and be like, bro, things could be great. We just all need to like put in a little extra work. It's challenging. It's intimidating, but it's not impossible. This
was a super chat from before. Brian S. Redheads rock. Nothing wrong with a responsible man who wants to take care of you. Yeah, trad life.
Right. That's right. I love it. I love that idea. It just seems like such a good trade to me because this is something women like to do. Let them do what they want to do. Isn't that the goal of feminism?
I think it started when women, we did this to ourselves, like started to devalue like staying at home, raising kids, because then you see what happens when other people raise your kids, like whether it be, not that there's anything wrong with nannies, they're great, but like if you're not home and you're just, my sister's a teacher, she would tell me all the time, like, yeah, these parents, like teachers are expected to pick up the slack of the parents.
That makes me so sad.
Yeah.
People just kind of assume that teachers will raise their kids.
Other super chat. Okay, what is Lydia or Tim's view on people like Charlie Kirk? Is he too bought and generic? Is he good?
We have a pending invite with him. Ooh. Because I want to find out if he is generic or not. What I found is that nobody is generic. If you actually get to know them, you can kind of get a feel for how genuine they are. I would be interested in getting to know him. I do think that sometimes people will choose to compromise on certain things. And I won't say bought and sold because it's just, you're kind of lumping everybody in together. But people always kind of have a price, and they're like, well, I'll do this, but I won't do this. And, I'm willing to sacrifice this for the sake of being super famous or whatever. But yeah, I'd be interested. I'm really interested to get to know him and I really hope that works out.
I think I saw a super chat before asking about your guys' opinion on Andy and Yo. And I know you tweeted about him.
I did. I had a very spicy take. So this is something that I mentioned on the stream. This is something that I personally believe. This is a nuanced issue because I have a great deal of respect for Andy. I think he's very brave. I remember the day. I know exactly where I was the day that he got hit in the head with a milkshake. Because I was messaging Tim. And I was like, this is crazy. Did you see what happened with Andy? He's like, yeah, holy cow. Look at that. Poor guy. I hope he's all right. And we were like, wow, that was really brave of him. But then it happened again. And I was like, dude, Andy, you got to stop. And then it happened again. And I was like, dude, this isn't smart.
But he took 3 milkshakes to the head?
It wasn't milkshakes in the other 2
Just
cases.
Getting beat up, yeah.
They keep beating him. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? Like, he actually went to England for a while because he was genuinely, like, almost in fear for his life. I was like, that's terrifying. I feel bad for you. So why would you go back out there? I guess I don't understand. What we've seen with people like Elijah and with Tim was that when you reach a certain point, you have to be like, I'm done. I'm done. I have to be done. People are starting to recognize me. Tim was saying that people were starting to like, so I guess somebody like sent him a picture of his mother. And he was like,
God.
oh my gosh, no more. Yeah, you're bringing my family into this.
Did she at least look thin?
I'm sure she looked great.
That is,
but I know it was
scary and horrible.
And I was like, I don't blame you in the least. He left. I think the first video of his I ever saw, he was leaving. I think it was St. Louis because they were shooting people who appeared to be white. They shot a kid in the neck with a .22. And Tim was like, you know what? I am Schrodinger's minority. I'm, mixed race. People might think I'm white. Sometimes people think I'm Hispanic. Sometimes people think I'm white. I'm going to get out of here because it's not safe. And I was like, to me, that seems wise because then you can at least live to fight another day. Or you can write a piece about them and you can talk about what happened and maybe you can send someone else in there for you. And I'm not saying that you should be sacrificing someone else for you, but you could give a new reporter an opportunity to get a foothold and kind of figure out their own way around. It would be someone that Antifa would not be familiar with. I just see that as being an absolute positive. And Andy could really leverage his influence and build like an organization, which I think we're going to need because like I said, let's be real. These on the ground reporters have a really limited shelf life and it sucks. It's hard and violent,
Yeah. It's like till you get recognized and then you got to get out. But I understand because I did an episode with Elijah and this other reporter. I can't remember his name. He works for Town Hall. He's a sweetheart. Julio. Yes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
We were talking about great. The 6th and it's like, it's almost like they're like these people that chase tornadoes. Like there's something about the adrenaline of capturing history as it's happening. Yeah. There's something that they don't hate about the danger element. It's like guys that like want to be warriors. It's like you are fighting, you are, whether you're holding a camera, that is like kind of a form of fighting. You're getting the truth out there. And I think there's part of them that like, they don't want to appear like they've gone soft or that they don't have a thirst for this anymore. They want to be on the front lines. It's like, not that they want to get their ass kicked, but like, they're not pussies. They're not going to shy away from it.
That's why I totally respect that. But I think that like James O'Keefe, he went undercover. He went to, some of these offices and he busted them wide open, which I thought was fantastic. And then he stopped doing that because people recognize him. People recognize him now. He doesn't do any more of that on the ground stuff. And it's not a case of not being brave. So typically what I was hearing when I gave my spicy take on Twitter and people got really mad at me, was that I was hearing that Andy should have been able to go out there and do that in a free country with all this free speech floating around. He should have been able to do that. You should be able to walk down a dark alley butt naked and have nothing happen to us. That's what should happen. You know what's gonna happen?
Reality.
Not that. Reality is going to hit you. It's gonna be like a car and a brick wall, and it's not gonna be pretty. And things are gonna happen like what happened to Andy. And I'm sorry about what happened to Andy. I wish he would take care of himself. I was feeling very maternal the other day. I was like, dude, you gotta take care of yourself. It's like we want to have you
need your face.
Right, you need your face, you need your body, you need everything functional. You had a concussion in 2019 when we were watching you in Portland there. Like, that was extremely brave of you to do. It's got to be terrifying. Like, take care of yourself, be realistic about what might happen to you. That's all I was saying. Like, I think that he should be able to go out there and do stuff, but I think you got to be smart. That's basically it.
Yeah, I feel like it would feel like you're, like married or dating like an MMA fighter. It's like, how do you, it's like, you're going to get, it's like, I hope you like the swollen look. I don't know.
Exactly. Well, I was listening to Joe Rogan talk with Jordan Peterson the other night, and Joe Rogan quit because he was worried about his head. He was worried about CTE. He's worried about his brain. And he said he actually had nose surgery, and he had his deviated septum fixed, and he said there was so much scar tissue. Oh, man. Wow. I was like, dude, I'm really glad that he got out when he did, because now he has a career. He's a podcaster. He's doing fun stuff. He's doing comedy. He's living his best life because he stopped doing what he loved before it killed him. And I think that there's something in there for people just to be cautious.
And I think maybe it does take, like, I know this is like a hot traditional take. Maybe it does take like a woman in your life to be like, mom you a little bit and be like, hey, like, please don't get killed. Like, you can still be you and be tough and take no shit, but not put yourself in physical danger.
Exactly. I actually had a couple friends where we would hang out, and I had this one friend who kept injuring himself. And one day on the download, my other friend was like, this would be the time where you should step in and be like, stop doing that. You should knock that off. You should take a precaution. I'm like, I'm not his significant other, whatever. I was like, I can recommend it, but I'm not going to be the person to say do or don't do that unless I'm actually your spouse or your sister or whatever, or your really good friend. But it's like, that's not my place. With Andy, I care about what happens to him. And I think that people won't give you the benefit of the doubt. If you're like, please don't do that. Don't be dumb. They just want to be like, he should be able to. Yeah, he should. I should be able to walk around naked, but I fucking can't. So here we are, it's like, I don't know. You just have to be realistic, and you gotta know.
And I wonder if this, like, the same bravery to, like, to be out and record history, and it's like the same bravery that it takes to kind of be like an outspoken, more conservative, maybe, just basically not leftist voice. Are men like better equipped to lead in this way? Like, there are not a ton. There are some girls in the conservative space, like we were talking about before we started recording, and like, ones you've had on your show. Like, I love Sydney Watson. I love like Eliza Blue. I mean, she has a bit, like, she's very passionate about like sex and human trafficking, and like and you know what, you need to be, because she's like a friggin' pit bull, and like
absolutely,
that's what
that's
that
her
cause
deal
needs. But like overall, I feel like there's not as many that any of us could name so many, like, just, liberal celebrities. Like, what impact are they really making? They have all the safest takes. They're following corporate America. There don't seem to be as many like women kind of in this conservative space. Is that like a biological thing, or is it a fear thing, or is it like, are more women in the public eye gonna tend to be more liberal?
That is a combination of all of those things are probably true. Like I said, women tend to be busy. That's kind of the underlying factor. Women are always doing stuff with and for other people, which is great. That's one of the things that makes us cool. Women do tend to be more liberal. We know this to be true. And it also is biological, because men tend to be more aggressive and women tend to be more agreeable. And it's possible to be an agreeable conservative woman, but that means that you're going to be at home. That means you're going to be doing
laundry
stuff. Right. Well, you're going to be doing stuff behind the scenes. All of this stuff is super important. Like, if you see a man who's neatly dressed, it's probably because someone got all his ducks in a row for him that morning and, fixed stuff and helped him make it happen. Like,
or he's gay.
Yeah. Or possibly too. Yeah. I mean, it just depends on his shoes, obviously. That's really
right.
bottom line. But yeah, it's like women tend to be behind the scenes. And yes, women tend to be more liberal because we are soft-hearted. And that is, in politics, that makes something of a weakness, because it means that we'll vouch for stuff like open borders, especially if we don't have kids. We're like, oh my gosh, these people need our protection. I have no one to protect. I don't have my own kids. Let me bring in these other people. And you see this with some of these Swedish ladies. They'll like basically adopt these young men. That's a whole weird Freudian element right there.
Wait, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Are you talking about like cougars?
Yes, I am. There's actually a name for them in Swedish, and I don't remember what it is, but they bring in these like 18, 19-year-old dudes who are migrants, and it's just like, that's their boy toy. And I'm like, that's so weird. Like, that's crossing the line between having a child and having a partner. Like, what is happening?
I have this joke that I'm working on that, like, like tragically single ladies should be at the border, because like, look, women who say like all the good men are taken or gay, like, go to the border, pick yourself out a fresh one. Like, just,
there you go.
You know what I mean? Hey, you like to work hard? I'm a project,
That's right. It's true. I don't know. I don't really want to encourage it, because it's like, that actually happens. I would just be like, all right, just have have some kids, find a way to have some kids. But if you can't find a dude, what are you going to do about that? So I don't know. There's got to be something in there. But yeah, you see this. Women tend to be more, and somebody, I think it was Jordan Peterson, he pointed out that we've never seen feminine political pathology. We've seen the male form. I think we're seeing the feminine political pathology. We want to be nice. We want to be inclusive and diverse.
Yeah.
And equal. And it's like, well, excuse me? How is this supposed to work?
Is toxic femininity.
I think you're right.
Just on steroids, like jacked up and made to be policy. Ugh.
Yeah, I know. And that's kind of the conclusion I reached. And I was like, oh, it's kind of depressing. I kind of wish that I had kind of a better legacy for my gender, but it is what it is. Half of it's probably birth control and feminism and college education and stuff. And it's like, it's just a mess.
But it's not over yet. I think
that's true. Oh, yeah.
As probably a woman who came up with the idea to boil and fry and dip cicadas in chocolate. I saw that on your timeline too. I'm like, you're like, what about nuts? What about eating nuts?
How about nuts? Yeah, that would taste really nutty. And it's vegan. Oh, look at that. I just thought that was funny because I was like, my stance on eating the bugs is that I'm not going to eat bugs until it's either that or eat another person. Like
or duty.
Exactly. It's like my stance is that we live in the first world. We're incredibly lucky. Part of the privilege of living in the first world is not needing to eat bugs for our protein. And I was like, that's really great. Let's just count our blessings that that's where we're at.
There are other options. Do you ever feel like frustration over, like, do you feel like TimCast had, some folks have a perceived, like, the show has like a political bent? I feel like what you guys try to do is just like wake up the masses. That's what I feel like the show does. But how do you feel like when people go, or like this show is right wing, but then there's people who say Tim's a fence sitter. So
I actually love this because Tim has played his hand so well that in his Wikipedia page, it says simultaneously that he is far right and left wing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I just don't really present my really super strong opinions on the show. I just kind of try to read people the news and present to them what's actually going on. I was like, perfect. That's exactly where I want to be. I want to be on the side of someone who never backs down, first of all. And I want to be on the side of somebody who wants to know the truth more than aligning with a political party. I feel like that's what we do. And I feel like one of the most important things that the show has to offer is kind of building community and making people feel like they're not alone. Especially during the pandemic. Initially, we were going to review movies. We had a lot of fun reviewing movies. We reviewed Birds of Prey, which was a horrible movie. It was terribly done. And then we went and we saw Suicide Squad. I don't remember if we reviewed that one, but we also watched Sonic. That was super fun. So that was going to be kind of the gist of the show. It was going to be more laid back cultural commentary. And then, COVID, lockdown, politics became kind of the forefront of everything. And we kind of shifted toward that. And people seem to gravitate toward that as well. So the political thing, I just kind of love being in the center because I feel like I wouldn't work somewhere where I didn't feel like we were actively pursuing what's true above, partisanship. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I really appreciate my job because of that.
Yeah. Do you feel like the audiences like generally like love the political stuff, or how much do you base like what do you think the audiences will like versus what do you think they should know?
We want to kind of combine the two. One of the things we've learned is that these segments about cultural changes are really evergreen. His name is Sean Smith, and he actually flew out from Colorado early on in the podcast. I think he was maybe our second or third guest ever.
When did the podcast
way back in 2020
start?
So that the podcast started in December. It officially started in January 2020. Wow. Early 2020. Yeah. And Sean Smith is a psychologist. He has written books about like how to deal with interdimensions of being married and being in a relationship with men and being in relationships with women. He came on and he talked about why men shouldn't date feminists, which our audience that video still gets the views, like still a year and a half later. And I was like, something about this resonates with the demographic that our channel tends to lean toward, which is, the target demographic, males 18 to 35. I was like, it's perfect. That's what we're going to talk about. And that's one of those things, like you and I have already talked about it multiple times. This is something at the forefront of everyone's minds. Like, what the heck is going wrong? How can we fix it? How can we avoid some of these problems? So yeah. And then obviously like the day-to-day breaking news stuff. And the guys love talking about Bitcoin. They love talking about Magic the Gathering. And I'm just like,
okay, I'll see you later.
I don't know anything about this. Yeah. I'm just going to push buttons over here. It's fine. They're having fun with it. And people tend to like that as well. But I like the deep cultural stuff. That tends to draw the views because it appeals to people's hearts. And then the breaking news kind of catches people's minds, catches their brains and their eyes, especially if it goes up early in the morning. So yeah, it's a combination.
Was there ever a guest who surprised you / you didn't think you would like, but then they came on the show and you ended up really liking them?
I kind of thought, okay, so Michael Knowles, I was like, okay, he's pretty important. He's got a pretty big platform. I bet that he's kind of standoffish and snobby, right? I met him and he was like the warmest person. He was like, I love this place. You guys are living the American dream. You have such a great studio here. He showed me pictures of his baby. I argued with him about a point he had made earlier on his podcast. And he's like, oh, well, here's what I was really thinking. I was like, it was great. He was fantastic. Like he ended up being one of my favorite guests, possibly because I went into it being like, I'm not really sure how he's going to be, but he definitely surpassed my expectations, and he is every bit as nice. He's actually much nicer in person than he seems on his show. Because on his show, he can be like a little bit, he was actually described by a magazine as a dapper lib-triggering troll, which is a fantastic turn of phrase. I love it. He loves it too. I think it's in his bio on Twitter. But I was like, yeah, he comes across a little bit a bit of a troll, and I thought he might be a little arrogant, but he wasn't. He's fantastic. Really, really great dude.
What makes for like a good guest on the show? Like if you could do like, okay, these things definitely don't want to do, and these things make for a great guest.
So there are two different kinds of guests. I don't know if people have ever noticed this, but we have people, we bring them on and they can talk about anything. And then we have people who we bring on because of one thing that they did or their field of study. So recently we had on Grace and her husband, Kurt, and they were talking about their company and how they rescued it from social justice.
Oh,
how
wow.
They started out, it was fine and normal, and then people started to be like, oh, I need this and this, and I don't feel comfortable and included, and we're not diverse enough or whatever. And they're like, we pushed back. This lady did her homework. She had like a 14-page brief, like a law brief that she went into this meeting with, and she's like, here's what I think is wrong with all your ideas. And the people who were trying to push back on them ended up leaving of their own free will. They weren't fired. They don't have any kind of case against them. They're just like, I'm out. You've like defeated my arguments. I'm out of here. I'm not interested in staying when my arguments have been so thoroughly rebutted. I was like, that's amazing. So we had those people on to talk about that thing. We didn't really talk about the breaking news that day, except as it applied to their story. We're like, here's an example of someone else's whose company is being affected by wokeness. And then other people like Jack Posobiec, who we had last night, he pretty much knows everything. He spends all day, every day tweeting, reading the news. He's up on China. He knows about COVID. He's familiar with all this other stuff. He actually got a scoop from a dude in Fort Carson, Colorado, where I'm from, actually Colorado Springs, where I'm from. There was a commander in the Army who was talking about how all of his dudes were toxic and white. If they were white, they were like horrible and evil. And I mean, Jack had the receipts. He had text messages and he had all this information from this big scoop. So that's the other kind of, I think that's really pretty much the perfect guest, is someone who has that primary information about what's happening on a day-to-day basis about everything. So
yeah,
you have really focused guests and you have like people who are really generalists.
And also like a passionate generalist like Jack Murphy. I feel like he can talk about anything and knows a lot, like kind of a little to a medium amount about everything. And
yes,
always
he's literally a jack of all trades. And with Jack as well, Jack Murphy, you're pulling in the cultural well, with both of our Jacks, because with one Jack, you have this young guy and this young family. And then with this other Jack, you have this guy with this emphasis. He's got, 14-year-old son.
A
He's
beard.
building his own. He's got the beard. He's got the bodybuilding. And he's really working on being the most positive form of masculinity that he can be, which is something that everybody really needs. And especially our audience really gravitates to. He's got not the father figure as such, because he's really not that old. He's only like 44, 45 or something. But he's got like some of that wisdom and some of that, experience that people are really looking for.
And he's worked and was canceled from working in education, which is so topical.
Yes. And he's been willing, he's been a repeat guest. We think he's great. It builds his channel, it builds our channel. It's good, gives us structure, and it takes a little bit of pressure off me every other Wednesday. I don't have to worry about bringing on a new person. So it just is very much a win-win-win for us. So I'm
curious about his beard regime. Like, he must he must dye it in sections. Like, there's no way.
I don't think he dyes it. He told us that he didn't dye it at all. Yeah, I was like, holy moly, how does this happen? He's like, I woke up one day and it was like this.
A perfect Pepe Le Pew style beard.
Isn't that
skunk
crazy?
Beard.
And I would never doubt him. He said that was how it is, and I trust him, but it's crazy. That's a crazy, the way things work. Well, I have seen guys who have a different color hair. And
right, they'll have a stripe. Yeah.
That's true too. Yeah, so you get all sorts of different colors. I don't know. I'm not sure what he does. He doesn't fuss with his beard a lot when he's here with us on the show. So he's kind of got it down to an art, I guess. He probably uses an oil and a comb and everything, but nothing crazy. Doesn't seem to bother him much at all. Yeah, he's great. I love him.
And lastly, I think you have a hot take regarding men in shorts.
Oh, yes, I do. I should never be forced to see a male's knees unless I'm literally in bed with them.
Unless you're on yours.
That's right, exactly. I don't want to see your knees. It's not the sexiest part of a dude. It tends to be very ugly. Lots of guys skip leg day. Now, I will make an exception if you have super awesome legs, if you really got to show them off. Clifton Duncan was commenting. He's like, I've been hitting those squats. I got really impressive quads. I'm like, all right. That's fine. That's fair. But the concept of the 80s style shorts that are 4 inches long, I'm like, oh my gosh, please no. Why? Why are you doing this to me?
I agree. No flip-flops. I'm okay with some shorts. I feel like a non-cargo short looks a little more chic, but I know that
I know they're practical. I get it.
Yeah. It's they can't have a purse, so they have to have one on either side of their shorts.
They do have those big pockets, though. That's not really fair, but whatever. Yeah, that's just my hot take. That's my personal thing, and I'm just gonna thrust it on the world because that's what Twitter is for.
Aw. And you started a tea time with Lydia. You would sort of have these thoughts after the show, and it was it's a place where you can. I know it's great because people always want to hear more from you, and it's actually really great that as a producer you can be like, okay, I have these thoughts. It speaks to your lack of ego, I think, on the show, that you're not going to be I'm not going to steamroll with this comment, even though it could be perfect. You're I will save it, and it's got to be hard though. It is kind of challenging. Sometimes.
I just started kind of writing stuff down. I haven't been doing those lately because I changed my schedule. I'm now semi-nocturnal. I will stay after the show and do my post-production. And I've actually found this to be incredibly streamlines things. It helps me. Excuse me, my voice is going. It helps me get everything done ahead of time. And that way you don't have to worry about getting up super early the next morning or whatever, which has helped me target my sleep better. I was finding that when I was rushing home to do my little tea chats, I was not sleeping well. I was I really feel like I need to prioritize that. So that's what I've been doing. I kind of moved it to the weekends, and I was like, ugh, it's not such a big deal because on the weekends we don't do the show. I'm not storing up my thoughts for 2.5 hours or whatever, but I need to get back into that because I like to be able to throw my thoughts out into the ether like that. I think that's good to be able to engage with people. But I think I need to get back into that and work on that.
Yeah, or do a video, note to self, and then I bet it's hard. You're busy. You've
it's okay. I just need to prioritize it better, and I haven't been, but I have been sleeping a lot better and feeling a lot better, so that's been nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lydia, thank you. I feel like I could easily talk to you for another 3 hours. You're the best.
Oh, that'd be fun. Let's do it Joe Rogan style.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again sometime. Where can people find you and follow you?
Okay, I think everybody knows that you can all follow me on Twitter at Sour Patch Lyds, and my goal in life right now is to have more followers than Sour Patch Kids.
And you're just Just as spicy.
That's right. I'm not as sour as Sour Patch Kids. I'm a lot spicier sometimes. I think they have 90,000 and I have 75. So
You'll
we're
get there.
kind of getting close. I need them to be completely stagnant for like 3 months and then I can catch up with them. That's my plan.
We just have to hope they don't come out with a new flavor or something.
Right. I know. Hopefully. I don't think they've been doing much lately. So I think I'm good. But yeah, everybody can follow me there on Twitter. That's where I spout all my thoughts into the ether. And of course, come watch TimCast IRL weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube. We stream live. And then the next day, everyone needs to appreciate this. I stay late at work so that I can make these segments that go up throughout the day following.
Wow.
So,
well, we appreciate everything you do for the show. You really help make it, the great show that it is. And thank you so much for coming on, Lydia.
Thank you for inviting me. I had a blast. I really enjoyed our conversation. It was nice to talk for a change and lovely to see you again.
Awesome. We'll do it again soon. Bye.
Bye.